Welcome to Aaron's Harp. My name is Darby. I'll be your bartender, even though I'm incredibly sick today, and I have been all week. Today, our special is the hot toddy. All right, the hot toddy. I have two ways we're gonna do this today, okay? Don't mind my sniffly nose. That's just what we're dealing with today, which is why we're making a hot toddy. It is one of the classics, right? So this is mid 18th century. The toddy was kind of invented or put into practice, right? And they thought that it had medicinal purposes. With modern, central heating and ventilation and modern medicine, we know that, sniffling, sneezing, runny, cold, just take medicine and, you'll be better. But the hot toddy kind of remains a staple of the era, right? It was used in a way that was more or less as like a remedy to sickness. And today, we're gonna make that remedy. I have two ways that I do it. Both of them are similar, but distinctly different in their approaches on how they're done. We've got a bunch of ingredients here. You don't need all of these. Kind of pick and choose what you like. That hot toddy really can be done any way you like it. Now, I was asked the other day by one of my wife's co-workers, Mr. Bain, how I make a hot toddy. So, Bain, this one's for you, buddy. We're gonna go ahead and make two versions of this. Both of them are whiskey. Now you can use, I've done them with rum. I've seen them done. I've not yet done them with tequila, like an aged tequila. I've seen it done. I have never done it, but I have done it with rum. I've done it with plenty of different whiskeys. So let's talk about whiskey selection for just a second before we get into making these. I'm still waiting on my glasses, and we're gonna talk about that too in just a second. There's a few different ways to make, or a few different whiskeys you can use to make this, right? You can use bourbon, rye, Irish, Scotch, whatever you want. That's the glory of this, right? The Irish would typically use Irish, Americans would use bourbon or rye, Scots would use Scotch because that's what you had available, right? My personal preference is something soft, with plenty of flavor, but is not overpowering. So we're not gonna be breaking out my beloved Rittenhouse, okay? So no Rittenhouse today. I personally tend to stay away from ryes. This Basil Hayden's dark rye would probably be the exception because it is fairly soft, fairly mild rye. And look, I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I'm wearing a long sleeve zip up shirt today, not because it's cold out. It's 85 degrees, so I'm sweating. But, commitment to craft and all that. Today, what I'm gonna be using, I'll be doing one using this Sexton single malt Irish whiskey. This is my favorite Irish whiskey to do this with. This is also one of my favorites. It's really cheap, really affordable. It's one of my favorites just to sip on if you're just sipping whiskey, especially if you like Irish whiskey. It's very mild, it's very soft, it's pleasant, and that's the thing about it really that I like. It's very, very pleasant. For our bourbon, we're actually going to be using this Knob Creek Smoke Maple Bourbon, which I really, really like, but it's really difficult to use because it has such a bold flavor, right? I mean, you could make an old fashioned with this and it will be good, but it's going to be a maple old fashioned. A smoked maple old fashioned though is phenomenal. Using this, really, really do recommend it. But that's going to be one of our two. All right, now, And like I said earlier, you can mix and match and do whatever you want. The hot toddy is really a fun cocktail to experiment with. You can add different spices and stuff like that. But let's talk about glasses. Normally, you would see me put cocktails in glasses like this one, right? This is a regular thin-walled, thick base rocks glass, double rocks glass, right? An old-fashioned glass is what some people call it. Typically, that's what I make most of my drinks in because that's what they're made in. That or a coupe. Today, we're using, see if I have one that's not full of water right now. These are actually a tempered glass mug meant for Irish coffees, hot toddies, things that are hot. These are tempered glass. They are made to be heated. Do not put hot water in something like this, all right? If you don't have a tempered glass fancy mug like this, don't put it in your cocktail glasses or you're gonna find your cocktail glass is gonna probably shatter. And if not, it would become structurally unsound and I would not use it, okay? Just a word of caution. You don't have to take that, just a word of caution, all right? I'm using these. You could totally just make this in a coffee mug if you so chose, right? Also, your garnishes are completely optional, totally up to you, whatever you like. I personally like orange or lemon. I've seen people do it with grapefruit because they don't like the lemon flavor. Whatever you want to do, you can do. Today, I'm using orange because that's what I have here available. But what I have done in my glasses is gotten my tap water very, very hot, okay? Then I have put that in these glasses until it's kind of come back down to room temperature. The reason for that is called tempering, right? I don't want to go straight from these sitting on my shelf to getting hot water in them. Again, they probably won't shatter, but why take that risk? So what I've done is I have just made a mess, but I just filled them up with water, set them off to the side, let them kind of come back down to room temperature, right, working temperature, and then we'll fill them with boiling water later. But now they've already been kind of preheated. This is still warm to the touch, okay? So let's go ahead and start making these. Both of these cocktails you make directly in the glass, which really, really helps us out. We're gonna start with our smoked maple bourbon. All right, Knob Creek smoked maple. Again, you could use any bourbon you wanted. Noble Oak works really well. Bullet works really well. Angel's Envy is phenomenal for something like this, right? Soft, delicate flavors. It's kind of what I'm going for here. Whatever you do, it is 2 ounces of bourbon. All right, 2 ounces. A 1/4 ounce of high quality lemon juice. You can go a little heavy if you want, you can go a little light if you want, but we're gonna go right at about 1/4 ounce. Now, normally, you don't ever see sugar on the channel. That's because this is 21st century and I just make simple syrup. But for this, because we're adding hot water to this, we're gonna go ahead and make basically simple syrup on the fly, right? We're gonna add Demerara. This is Demerara simple syrup, right? This is sugar in the raw, turbinado cane sugar. That's all this is. You get this at Walmart, all right? So how do you measure this, right? You can either use your bar spoon, because that is pretty much a universal measurement. They're all pretty much the same, but I have this awesome little flat spoon, which I just know how much it is from experience. You need about 2.5 to 3 of these little flat spoons to make this sweet enough without being potent, like overkill, right? So now I'm gonna start my water boiling in my kettle. While I do that, I'm gonna make my second toddy, okay? This one is gonna be pretty much the same. 2 ounces of our Irish whiskey. A 1/4 ounce, there we go, of our lemon juice. Here's where we're gonna change things up a little bit. Instead of using our sugar in this little bowl, I have honey. This is local honey. I do recommend trying to get local honey if you can. It has, especially during the springtime, right? Try and get local honey. It'll help your allergies. What we're gonna do here is I'm gonna take, using my bar spoon this time, I'm gonna take a good chunk of this, right? This is crystallized because it's, you know, not like nasty store-bought. And we're gonna take a good little bit of that into there, right? This is considerably less sweet than our other, than like pure sugar, right? So, you know, accordingly. And now we're just waiting on our water to heat up. So as soon as our water heats up, we're gonna add water to these.
A few moments later.
All right, and we're back with boiling water. So this does not need to get to like legit, like full rolling boil, right? You want it like coffee hot, hot chocolate, that kind of thing, all right? Please be careful anytime you're using things that are hot. Be gentle, go slowly. You need about 4 to 6-ish ounces to kind of just top these off. You don't need to fill them all the way to pack the brim, right? Now, let's give these a quick stir and we'll get all of our, you kind of want to like marry all of your flavors together, right? You want your honey to fully dissolve. You want your sugars to fully dissolve. You want all of your flavors to kind of meld together. And it's okay if it sits for a few minutes. It's hot. You're not going to drink it right this second unless you're my wife and you don't feel pain, I guess, when you drink hot liquids. So give these just a few minutes. Let everything kind of meld together. It's kind of like a soup or a stew, which is of course the, you know, best food in the world. Now, as far as garnishes go, this is where things kind of get fun and experimental. Cloves, from what I found, are pretty much the traditional way to go, and we're using those in our actual garnish itself. I also like to do cinnamon sticks. These are just store-bought. They smell absolutely phenomenal. I just drop them straight in, let them float in there. I take a little piece of nutmeg, right? This is fresh nutmeg. Get your little microplane, your grater, whatever. You don't need a lot, just a quick hit over the top. And this is just the way I like to do it. You know, nothing too fancy. Take your citrus, right? Lemon, whatever it is. And now what I've done is I take cloves and I stick my cloves down in the top of these, right? And then you just set it in there, let it stew, let it steep. And I've done the same thing with rind. I try not to waste too much if I can help it. Take your rind, get a nice strip, put some slits in it, push some cloves down in it, and just drop that in. It'll give it a bunch of extra flavor and really, really liven everything up. And there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, the hot toddy. 2 ways, the same exact cocktail, just 2 different kind of mixtures. So be it, all right? The smell is intoxicating. It's absolutely, and they both smell very similar, right? This one is slightly sweeter because I think the honey does bring out a little extra sweetness in the nose and the scent. Oh. It's delightful, and the longer it sits, the longer all those flavors stew together, the more bold it will become. The lemon comes through. The one that I just sampled was my Irish whiskey, right? I love it. It's got just a hint of vanilla in there. It's beautiful, it's soft, it is mellow, but it is soothing and warming. And say you live up north, not where I live here in Florida, and it's actually cold out, this next to a fire would be an absolute godsend, especially if you're like me and your throat is sore and you don't even feel like talking, but you have a commitment to your craft and this needs to be done. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me. I hope that you, this fall, winter, cold and flu season, or anytime, can find a way to enjoy a hot toddy, whether you make it with whiskey or rum or anything else you want. And if you maybe have some little ones or somebody who's under 21 that would like to get involved in the hot toddy business here, right? There are a plethora of other things you can do to involve them with it. I've done this with tea, fresh tea. Just make some black tea, set it off to the side. Don't oversteep it, of course, and just add a couple of ounces of black tea into this. It's phenomenal as well. It's just another element that you can add even to one of these. It really does take any and all kind of creation you can throw at it. Thank you all so very much. I hope that you all have a safe and good week ahead of us. Remember to please like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the YouTube things. It really does help me out. I appreciate every single one of you. Remember, don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, tip your bartenders. We'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, don't be like me, don't get sick, and if you do, enjoy a hot toddy. Cheers.